When a young millionaire's security is shattered in seconds, she discovers that the real danger isn't on the street, but inside her own home, and the truth could be deadly. The afternoon sun bathed the luxurious storefronts of Fashion Square, one of the most exclusive malls in the Upper East Side of New York. Olivia Carter, with her freshly turned 17 years, jet black hair, and a confident stride that betrayed her privileged upbringing, strolled absent-mindedly between high-end boutiques. By her side, Max, a towering dark-coated Belgian Malinois, remained alert, his eyes tracking every movement around them. "I think that's enough for today," Olivia muttered to herself, adjusting the shopping bags in her hands. The mall was quiet that Wednesday, frequented mostly by an elite crowd who could afford the exorbitant prices of international brands. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother, Helen Carter, the powerful CEO of the Carter Group, a corporate empire dominating multiple sectors of the American economy. "Where are you? We need to talk about Saturday's party. It's important." Olivia rolled her eyes. Ever since her father, Anthony Carter, had suffered that tragic helicopter accident 3 years ago, her mother had become even more controlling and obsessive about security. "I'm heading home now, Mum," she replied quickly. As she walked toward the exit, Olivia noticed something odd. A man in a dark suit was staring at her intently from across the corridor. He wasn't one of her mother's security detail. She knew all of them. Max noticed too, his muscles tensing subtly beneath his glossy coat. "Easy, Max," she whispered, lightly stroking the dog's head. Probably just my imagination. But it wasn't. As she approached the VIP exit reserved for special clients, Olivia sensed something was wrong. The usual guard wasn't at his post, and the door leading to the private parking lot was slightly ajar. "Let's turn back, Max," she murmured, pivoting on her heels. It was too late. 3 men suddenly appeared, blocking her path. They were dressed like mall employees, but their gazes told Olivia they weren't there to help. "Miss Carter," one of them said in a low, controlled voice, "you'll need to come with us, quietly." Max growled, positioning himself protectively, in front of Olivia. His years of military training kicked in instantly. "Who are you?" Olivia asked, trying to keep her voice steady while discreetly pressing the emergency button on her watch. "That doesn't matter now. We just need you to cooperate," replied the same man, taking a step toward her. That movement set everything off. Max lunged with the precision of a guided missile, striking the man's arm as he tried to reach Olivia. The other 2 men reacted, but the dog was too fast, darting between the attackers with impressive coordination. What followed looked like something out of an action movie. Max subdued all 3 men in seconds, keeping them pinned without causing serious injury, just as he'd been trained to do. Shoppers and mall security, drawn by the commotion, began to gather. Olivia, still in shock, watched as Richard Adams, her family's head of personal security, burst through the main entrance, followed by 2 other men. "Miss Olivia, are you all right?" Richard asked, but there was something odd in his voice, as if he wasn't truly surprised by what had just happened. They tried to take me," Olivia stammered, still processing the events. "We know who they are," Richard said, but offered no explanation. "I need to get you home immediately. Your mother is worried." As she was escorted to the armored car, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about Richard's words. "We know who they are." How could he know? The police hadn't even arrived to question the captured men. Max stayed by her side, as vigilant as ever. But it wasn't until she got into the car that Olivia noticed her phone had received a message from an unknown number. "Not every enemy comes from the outside, Olivia. Your father learned that too late." A chill ran down her spine. Who had sent that, and what did they know about her father? If you're interested in this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Let us know which city you're watching from. Let's continue. The Carter mansion, perched atop an exclusive hill in Central Park, stood imposingly against New York's night sky. Security lights illuminated the sprawling gardens, and discreet cameras monitored every inch of the property. To Olivia, it had always represented protection. Now it felt like a gilded prison. "Do you have any idea of the danger you were in today?" Helen Carter asked, her tone controlled, but her usually cold and calculating blue eyes betrayed genuine fear. "You should have told me you were going to the mall." "I told Richard," Olivia replied, watching her mother's reaction closely. "He knew exactly where I'd be." Helen shot a quick glance at Richard, who remained standing near the library door. Something silent passed between them, something Olivia couldn't decipher. "Richard, could you give us some privacy, please?" Helen asked, adjusting her immaculate white blazer, which contrasted sharply with her dark hair. Once the head of security left, Helen moved closer to her daughter, sitting beside her on the Italian leather sofa. "Olivia, you need to understand that our family isn't like others. Your father built an empire, and with that came attention. Not all of it is well-intentioned." "What kind of attention, Mom? Who were those men?" Helen hesitated, a rare moment for a woman known for her ruthless determination in the business world. "Competitors, perhaps. Political rivals. People who feel threatened by the power the Carter Group has gained," she answered. But Olivia sensed it wasn't the whole truth. "What matters is that you're safe. From now on, you don't leave without an enhanced security detail." Olivia felt indignation rising inside her. "I'm not a child, Mom. I have the right to know what's going on. Why did Richard say he knew who those men were, and why do you seem to be hiding something from me?" "Enough, Olivia." Helen raised her voice, standing abruptly. "I won't discuss this now. Go to your room and rest. We'll talk more calmly tomorrow." Defeated, Olivia left the library with Max by her side. In the hallway, she noticed the door to her father's old office was slightly ajar. Strangely, it was a room that had remained locked since the tragedy that took him away. Curious, she pushed the door open slowly. The scent of wood and old books still filled the space, as if time had frozen inside. In the dim light, she made out the silhouette of Richard, crouched near the safe embedded in the wall, urgently searching for something. Olivia stepped back silently, her heart racing. Max, sensing her tension, stayed quiet, as if understanding the need for discretion. Back in her room, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about what she'd seen. Why would Richard be rummaging through her father's things? And with whose permission? The questions multiplied in her mind as she dug through her bag, searching for her phone to reread the mysterious message. Then she noticed something strange. There was a key inside, one she didn't recognize. Small and seemingly old, with a strange symbol engraved on it, something like a stylized flame. How had that ended up in her bag? Olivia examined the key carefully when a flash of memory struck her. Her father used to carry a keychain with that same symbol. She remembered seeing him absent-mindedly twirling the keys between his fingers during long phone calls. At that very moment, her phone buzzed with a new message from the unknown number. "The key opens more than doors, Olivia. Seek the flame where knowledge burns eternally." Enigmatic and unsettling, Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. "The flame where knowledge burns eternally." She repeated it under her breath, trying to decipher its meaning. Max perked up his ears as if he too were attempting to understand. Suddenly, the answer struck her like lightning. Her father's private library. On the ceiling was a fresco depicting Prometheus, stealing fire from the gods to give it to humanity. The forbidden knowledge, the eternal flame. It was risky to leave her room after the argument with her mother, but Olivia knew she wouldn't be able to sleep without discovering what that key unlocked. She waited until the house fell into the silence of night, with only the occasional footsteps of security patrolling the perimeter. "Come on, Max," she whispered, quietly opening her bedroom door. The dog followed with silent steps, trained to make no noise even on the marble floors. The private library was in a secluded wing of the mansion. Olivia walked through the darkened hallway, guided only by the faint moonlight streaming through the tall windows. Upon entering, she turned on only a small desk lamp. Her eyes lifted to the breathtaking fresco on the ceiling. Prometheus, with his flaming torch, seemed to stare down at her, as if guarding all the secrets of the universe. It was then that Olivia noticed a small door embedded in the bookshelf, directly beneath the figure of the Titan, a door she had never seen before. With trembling hands, Olivia brought the key to the nearly imperceptible lock on the shelf. It fit perfectly. As she turned, "Hit!" she heard a soft click, and an entire section of the bookshelf slid aside, revealing a hidden compartment. Max remained vigilant beside her, his watchful eyes catching every movement in the library's shadows. "My God," Olivia whispered, peering inside the compartment. It wasn't large, but it held a military-looking laptop, some documents neatly organized in folders, and at the center a small metallic device bearing the same symbol as the key, the stylized flame. Olivia recognized the symbol now. It was a minimalist depiction of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods to give it to humanity. Carefully, she removed the laptop and the metallic device. As she closed the hidden compartment, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Quickly, she turned off the lamp and hid behind a large armchair, with Max crouched beside her. The library door opened slowly, and the hallway light cast the silhouette of Richard Adams. The head of security seemed to be searching for something, his movements methodical as he checked the shelves. After a few tense minutes, he finally left, closing the door behind him. Olivia waited a few more moments before emerging from her hiding spot. "This is getting stranger by the minute, Max," she murmured to the dog, who seemed to share her concern. "Bakandise." In her room with the door locked, Olivia examined her findings. The laptop was password protected, but the metallic device intrigued her more. It looked like some kind of sophisticated flash drive with a small blank LED screen. Hesitantly, she plugged the device into the laptop. Immediately, the small screen lit up, displaying a sequence of rapidly changing numbers. Olivia watched, confused, until she recognized the pattern. It was a countdown. When it reached 0, the laptop screen in front of her turned on by itself, displaying a message. "Biometric authentication required. Please approach the camera." Olivia leaned toward the laptop's webcam. An invisible retinal scanner analyzed her eyes for a few seconds before another message appeared. "Identity confirmed. Olivia Carter. Welcome to Project Prometheus." The screen then displayed the face of her father, Anthony Carter. It was a recording made shortly before his disappearance. Her heart raced as she saw her father's image, so vivid and close it felt like he was right there in the room with her. "Olivia, my daughter," the recording began, Anthony's voice heavy with restrained emotion. "If you're seeing this message, it means my suspicions were correct. I can't explain everything now, but you need to know that the accident everyone believes took me was no accident." The words hit Olivia like a punch to the gut. She felt the air leave her lungs as she struggled to process what she just heard. "Project Prometheus started as a revolutionary cybersecurity system," Anthony continued, "but during its development, we discovered something that should never have been found. Evidence of a corruption network involving some of the most powerful people in the country. Politicians, business leaders, judges, people above any suspicion." Anthony paused, glancing nervously over his shoulder before continuing. "This network, which calls itself the Syndicate, manipulates government decisions, billion-dollar contracts, and even elections. When I discovered the extent of its power, I knew I was in danger." The image shook slightly as if Anthony had adjusted the camera. "Olivia, you can't trust anyone, not even those closest to our family. The Syndicate has tentacles everywhere." That moment, Olivia thought of Richard rummaging through her father's office, her mother's strange reaction to the mall attack, the mysterious messages on her phone. Everything was starting to form a disturbing picture. "This device contains all the evidence I've gathered about the Syndicate. Names, dates, financial transactions, incriminating recordings. Everything is protected by encryption that can only be broken with your physical presence and a special code." Anthony then smiled sadly. "The code is a date only you and I know. The date I took you to the planetarium for the first time, and you said you wanted to be an astronaut. Do you remember? It was exactly 5:30 p.m. when you said that, staring at the artificial stars on the ceiling." Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she typed the date, 240615 Tinwo. June 24th, 3:10 p.m. The device's screen lit up green, and a new folder opened on the laptop, filled with files. "There's one more thing you need to know," Anthony continued, his expression growing even more serious. "Helen, your mother, she doesn't know about any of this. I kept her in the dark to protect her. but there are people close to her who aren't what they seem. Be careful, my daughter. The recording was about to end when Anthony added something that sent a chill down Olivia's spine. And as for Max, he's not just a guard dog. He was specially trained to protect this device and you. There are special commands only he recognizes. In case of extreme danger, say Prometheus 3 times, he'll know what to do. The screen went dark abruptly, leaving Olivia stunned by the revelations. Max, as if he understood the message, approached and rested his head on her lap, his intelligent eyes fixed on hers. Dawn found Olivia still awake, her eyes burning after hours hunched over the files of Project Prometheus. What she discovered was terrifying, an intricate web of corruption involving prominent figures in American politics and business. Names that regularly appeared in newspapers and news broadcasts as examples of integrity were there, implicated in billion-dollar schemes. Even more disturbing was the recurring mention of someone identified only as the Shadow, apparently the leader of the organization. Her father had come dangerously close to uncovering this person's identity when the accident happened. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Quickly, Olivia closed the laptop and hid the device under the pillow. "Miss Olivia?" The voice of Martha, the housekeeper who had worked for the family for decades, came from the other side of the door. "Your mother would like to see you for breakfast." "I'll be right there, Martha, thank you." Olivia looked at Max, who stretched after a night of keeping watch by her side. "We need to be careful," she whispered, stroking the dog's soft fur. "We don't know who we can trust." In the dining room, Helen Carter was impeccably dressed, as always, checking emails on her tablet while sipping a cup of black coffee. Richard was beside her, speaking in a low voice. "Good morning," said Olivia, carefully watching both of their reactions to her arrival. Helen looked up, her face softening at the sight of her daughter. "Good morning, darling. Did you sleep well?" "Not really," she answered honestly. "I'm still shaken by what happened yesterday." Richard cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Miss Olivia, I'd like to inform you that we've increased security at the mansion. We're also investigating yesterday's incident. The men were detained by the police, but so far they haven't revealed anything useful." Something in Richard's tone sounded off to Olivia. Was he part of the syndicate her father had mentioned, or was it just her paranoia? "Richard," Olivia began, deciding to test his reaction, "you mentioned yesterday that you knew who those men were. What did you mean by that?" The head of security exchanged a quick glance with Helen before answering. "Just that I recognized their modus operandi, a group that's attempted similar actions against other influential families before." Olivia nodded, pretending to accept the explanation, but she noticed how relieved her mother seemed at Richard's response. "I have to go to the office," Helen said, standing up. "A board meeting to discuss the new expansion project in Asia." She hesitated, then added, "Olivia, I'd like you to stay home today, for safety." "Of course, Mother," Olivia replied, masking her irritation. Now more than ever, she needed freedom to investigate. As soon as Helen and Richard left, Olivia quickly returned to her room. She needed to keep examining the files, but she also knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed someone with technical expertise to help decipher some of the more complex documents. That's when she remembered Gabriel Stone, her old schoolmate. The son of a modest university professor, Gabriel was a computer prodigy who had already been invited to intern at the biggest tech firms in the world. Olivia and he had never been close. Their worlds were too different, but there had always been mutual respect. Grabbing her phone, Olivia hesitated before sending a message. Would I be putting Gabriel in danger by involving him in this? On the other hand, her father had said she couldn't trust anyone close to the family, and Gabriel definitely didn't fit that category. "I need your help with something confidential. It's about advanced encryption. Can we meet?" The reply came almost immediately. "Intriguing. When and where?" "Today, 2 p.m. at the Sunrise Cafe near the university." "I'll be there." Olivia Carter put away her phone, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. The cafe was public enough to be safe, but discreet enough for a private conversation. At 1:30 p.m., she slipped out of the mansion through a secondary entrance used by staff, taking Max with her. She knew the blind spots of the security cameras, well, information that now seemed even more valuable. The Sunrise Cafe was a charming spot, mostly frequented by college students. Gabriel was already there when she arrived, sitting at a table in the back, away from the windows. His dark eyes widened at the sight of Max, but he didn't comment. "I never thought I'd get a mysterious message from the untouchable Olivia Carter," Gabriel said, adjusting his thin-framed glasses. His expression, however, turned serious when he noticed her worried look. "What's going on?" Olivia glanced around, making sure they weren't being watched, before opening her backpack and showing him the metallic device. "This is interesting," Gabriel murmured, examining the object without touching it. "I've never seen anything like it." "It's part of something called Project Prometheus," Olivia explained in a low voice. "It was developed by my father before his disappearance." Gabriel looked up, intrigued. "Disappearance? I thought your father had been in an accident." "I thought so too until yesterday." In the following minutes, Olivia summarized her findings, omitting only the specific names mentioned in the files. Gabriel listened intently, his face reflecting a mix of shock and fascination. "This is much bigger than I imagined," he finally said, "and a lot more dangerous too." "Will you help me?" Olivia asked, realizing she had been holding her breath. Gabriel smirked, a glint of determination in his eyes. "I've always wanted to be part of a real conspiracy, but we need to be extremely careful." The relief Olivia felt was short-lived. Through the cafe window, she saw a familiar black car park across the street. A man stepped out and began looking around as if searching for someone. "We need to get out of here," she whispered urgently. "Now." If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Let us know which city you're watching from. Stay tuned. "Don't look now, but someone's watching us," Olivia warned, keeping her voice calm as she casually stood up. "Let's go out the back." Gabriel nodded subtly, slipping his laptop into his backpack. Max, sensing the tension, positioned himself protectively beside Olivia, his muscles visibly tense beneath his dark fur. "There's an exit through the kitchen," Gabriel whispered, guiding them between the tables. "I know the owner." They moved quickly toward the back of the cafe. Out of the corner of her eye, Olivia saw the man from the black car enter the establishment, his gaze sweeping the room before locking onto them. He immediately raised a hand to his ear, as if communicating with someone. "He saw us," Olivia murmured, her heart racing. Gabriel pulled her into the kitchen, ignoring the barista's protests. "Fernando, I need to use the back exit. It's urgent." The young man behind the counter, recognizing Gabriel, simply pointed to a door in the back. "You owe me an explanation later." They stepped out into a narrow alley that connected to a side street. They had barely taken a few steps when they heard the door open behind them again. Max turned, growling threateningly. "Run!" Gabriel shouted, pulling Olivia by the hand. They sprinted down the alley, Max keeping close. When they reached the street, they saw another black car approaching slowly. They were being surrounded. "This way," Gabriel directed, pulling her toward a small urban park that connected several streets in the university district. The place was crowded with students, offering some cover in the bustle. As they weaved through groups of young people sitting on the grass, Olivia felt her phone vibrate. A message from an unknown number. "They're tracking your phone. Turn it off immediately and remove the battery." "My phone!" she exclaimed, showing the message to Gabriel before powering it off and removing the battery as instructed. "Who's sending these messages?" Gabriel asked, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "I don't know, but so far they've been helping." They kept moving through the park, blending in with the students. Max stayed alert, his posture signaling he sensed the danger around them. "We need a safe place," Gabriel said after a few minutes. "Any ideas?" Olivia quickly considered. They couldn't return to the Carter mansion. It would be the first place they'd look for her. They also couldn't go to Gabriel's house, as it would put his family in danger. "I know a place," she finally decided. "My father kept a secret apartment downtown. No one in the family knows about it except me. He showed it to me once, calling it a refuge for difficult days. How do we get there without being followed? Asked Gabriel, eyeing two men in suits who had entered the park and were now scanning the area with sharp gazes. Olivia looked around, searching for an escape route. Her eyes landed on a group of students boarding a van with a university logo. There, she pointed, we'll blend in with them. They casually approached, pretending to be part of the university tour. The professor, a grey-haired man with an absent-minded expression, barely noticed as they climbed into the van. "Trip to the Museum of Contemporary Art," Gabriel read from the van's banner. "At least it'll get us out of this area." Max, surprisingly, stayed quiet and well-behaved, lying at Olivia's feet like an ordinary guide dog. A few students gave curious glances, but no one questioned his presence. "What exactly did your father uncover that put him in so much danger?" Gabriel whispered as the van began to move. "Evidence of corruption at the highest levels," Olivia replied quietly. "People who control practically everything in the country from the shadows. He called it the Syndicate." Gabriel nodded gravely. "And now they're after you, because they think you have that evidence." "Not just think. I actually do," Olivia confessed, subtly gesturing to her backpack where she kept the Prometheus project device. "And apparently, they're not willing to let it come to light." Through the van window, Olivia watched the black cars speed by in the opposite direction. For now, they had shaken off their pursuers, but for how long? "We need to get off at the next stop," she whispered to Gabriel. "The apartment is just a few blocks from the museum." When the van stopped at a red light, they seized the chance to slip out discreetly, thanking the confused driver who merely shrugged. The downtown streets were crowded, making it easier to blend in. Still, Olivia remained vigilant, constantly checking if they were being followed. Max walked alertly beside her, his sharp senses picking up any suspicious movement. Anthony Carter's secret apartment was on the top floor of an old building in the historic center of New York. The Art Deco structure from the 1940s didn't stand out among the city's modern skyscrapers, which was likely exactly what her father had intended. "Here," Olivia said, stopping in front of an unassuming door. She pulled out a small set of keys hidden inside a pendant she always wore. "My father gave me these keys on my 15th birthday. He said I'd understand their importance one day." The apartment was compact but surprisingly well equipped. The windows offered a panoramic view of the bay, but the tinted glass prevented anyone outside from seeing in. "Wow!" Gabriel exclaimed, looking around. "Your dad thought of everything." The space was a perfect blend of home and office, a living room with comfortable sofas, a small kitchen, a bedroom, and, tucked in the far corner, a workstation with cutting-edge computers. "He came here to work on Project Prometheus," Olivia explained, absently stroking Max's head as he sniffed around curiously, far from the eyes of anyone who might spy on him. Gabriel immediately headed for the computers, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "This is incredible. State-of-the-art systems, some that aren't even commercially available yet. Your father had serious resources and connections." Olivia smiled sadly. He was always passionate about technology. He used to say the future belonged to those who mastered information. As Gabriel examined the equipment, Olivia explored the rest of the apartment. On the nightstand in the bedroom, she found a picture frame with a photo of her and her father, taken on the day they visited the planetarium, the same date that had served as the password for the Prometheus device. Her eyes filled with tears. The longing she felt for him was a physical pain, one that seemed to grow with each new discovery about what had really happened. "Olivia, come see this," Gabriel called urgently. She hurried back to the living room, where Gabriel had managed to access one of the computers. "Your father had a security system linked to the Carter mansion," he explained, displaying multiple surveillance camera feeds. "We can see everything happening there in real time." Olivia watched, fascinated, as images of the house where she'd grown up now appeared from a completely different perspective. She could see her mother in the main office speaking animatedly on the phone. Richard was walking through the garden, seemingly inspecting the perimeter. Other guards were stationed at strategic points. "Wait, turn up the volume on the office." "Camera," Olivia requested, noticing her mother seemed agitated. Gabriel adjusted the controls, and Helen Carter's voice filled the room. "We can't wait any longer. If she finds the files, everything will be lost," Helen said, her usually controlled voice now tense. "Richard, you need to find her. Use every available resource." The reply came through the phone but was clear enough for them to hear. "We're searching, Mrs. Carter. The last intel placed her near the University District, but we lost the trail. The dog is with her, which makes approaching difficult. I don't care how, just find her. And remember, the device is the priority. If force is necessary, use it, but retrieve Prometheus. It's our only guarantee." Olivia felt as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. Her own mother was involved. Her father had warned her not to trust anyone, but she never imagined Helen could be part of the syndicate. "My God," she whispered, staggering back until she found support on the couch. "My mom, she..." Gabriel turned off the audio, his face pale. "I'm sorry, Olivia, I'm truly sorry." Max approached, resting his head on Olivia's lap as if sensing her pain. She hugged the animal, seeking comfort in his loyal presence. "What do we do now?" Gabriel asked after a few moments of heavy silence. Olivia wiped her tears and took a deep breath. The pain of betrayal was excruciating, but she couldn't afford to succumb to it now. "We need to finish my father's work," she said with renewed determination. "The Prometheus project has all the evidence we need to expose the syndicate. We just have to figure out how to use it." Gabriel nodded, turning his attention to the device Olivia had brought. "I'll connect it to the system and see what we can extract." As he worked, Olivia kept watching the footage from the mansion. A new figure entered Helen's office, a tall man with graying hair and an elegant posture. She recognized immediately. Senator Victor Mendelsohn, one of the most influential politicians in the country and a close family friend for years. "The senator is with my mom," she remarked, turning up the volume again. "The situation is spiraling, Helen," the senator said, his usually amiable voice now edged with irritation. "The board is worried. If Anthony's files surface, not just our operations, but the entire structure of the syndicate will be compromised." "I'm aware of that, Victor," Helen replied coldly. "My daughter is clever, but she's just a teenager. It won't be long before we find her." "I hope you're right, otherwise we'll have to take more drastic measures." "The Council is considering activating the Phoenix Protocol." Helen looked genuinely alarmed. "The Phoenix Protocol? That's too extreme, Victor. We're talking about my daughter. We're talking about the survival of the Union, Helen. Senator replied harshly. "You knew the risks when you decided to join us. No one is above the organization, not even your daughter." Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. What was this Phoenix Protocol that even her mother feared? "Olivia, I did it," Gabriel exclaimed suddenly. "I accessed the main files of Prometheus. My God, it's incredible what your father gathered here." The screen now displayed a vast network of connections, names, companies, bank accounts, audio recordings, videos of secret meetings. It was a complete map of the Union, exposing its operations across the country and its international ties. "He had everything," Gabriel murmured in awe. "Your father collected enough evidence to bring down dozens of politicians, businessmen, judges." At the center of the screen, one name blinked insistently, connected to all the others: the Shadow. "Who is the Shadow?" Gabriel asked. "Seems to be the leader of it all." Olivia stared at the screen, a terrible dread forming in her chest. "We need to find out. There must be something in the files that reveals this person's identity." At that moment, Max abruptly stood up, his ears alert. A low growl escaped his throat as he stared at the apartment door. "What is it, Max?" asked Olivia, alarmed. The dog kept growling, his posture signaling imminent danger. "Someone's coming," whispered Gabriel, quickly saving the data onto a flash drive. "Hurry, shut everything down," Olivia whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. Gabriel obeyed immediately, closing the system windows and disconnecting the Prometheus device. Max remained on high alert, his eyes fixed on the door as a low, continuous growl rumbled from his throat. "Are you sure no one knows about this place?" Gabriel asked, slipping the flash drive into his pocket. "Only my father and me," Olivia replied, but her certainty was wavering. "At least that's what I thought." Slow, deliberate footsteps could now be heard in the hallway. Max grew even more tense, the fur on his neck bristling. Olivia looked around, desperately searching for another way out. The apartment was on the top floor, so the window wasn't a viable option. "Is there a secret passage?" Gabriel whispered, his voice barely audible. "Your father seemed like the kind of man who'd think of that." Olivia's eyes widened with sudden recollection. "The vent in the bedroom. My father showed me once, calling it an emergency route. I thought he was joking." Silently, they moved toward the bedroom. The vent cover was partially hidden behind a sliding bookshelf. Olivia moved the furniture carefully, revealing the opening. "It leads to the building's service corridor," she explained hurriedly. "From there we can reach the fire escape." Gabriel nodded, helping her remove the grate. "You go first. What about Max?" Olivia looked at the dog, who was still standing guard by the living room door. "He'll follow us. Max has special training." The duct was tight, but just wide enough for them to crawl through. Olivia went in first, followed by Gabriel. She glanced back and whispered a specific command to Max. "Promise." With that single word, the dog understood exactly what to do. Instead of following them immediately, Max retreated into the room, positioning himself strategically behind the door. As they crawled through the dusty duct, they heard the sound of the apartment door being opened. Male voices filled the space. "Search everything," ordered a voice Olivia recognized instantly. Richard Adams. "They were here recently. I can smell it." "The place looks empty, boss," replied another voice. "Contact Mrs. Carter. Tell her we found the hideout, but we need backup to—" The sentence was cut off by a fierce growl, followed by shouts and sounds of struggle. Max had sprung into action, creating the distraction they needed to escape. "Go," Olivia urged, quickening her pace through the duct. "Max will be fine. He's trained for situations like this." After what felt like an eternity crawling through the confined space, they finally reached the exit. Gabriel pushed the grate, which gave way easily, and they emerged into a deserted service hallway. In the distance, they could hear the chaos unfolding in the apartment, barks, shouts, and the sound of furniture being overturned. "The fire escape," Olivia pointed to a red door at the end of the hallway. They ran, pushing the door open and beginning to descend the metal stairs as quietly as possible. When they were nearly at ground level, they heard a peculiar whistle from above. Max appeared on the stairs, quickly descending to join them, looking unscathed despite the confrontation. "Good boy," Olivia whispered, briefly hugging the animal before they continued their escape. They emerged onto a side street, quickly blending into the crowd moving through the city center. Gabriel pulled Olivia into a shopping gallery, where they could temporarily hide among the stores and customers. "What do we do now?" he asked, panting. "They know about the apartment. It's not safe to go back there." Olivia nodded, her mind racing to find a solution. "We need another safe place, and we need to figure out who the Shadow is before they activate this so-called Phoenix Protocol." Gabriel checked the flash drive in his pocket, making sure it was still there. "I have all the Prometheus files here, but we need a computer to access them, preferably one without an internet connection so we can't be tracked." Then Olivia had an idea. "I know a place. A vacation home my father bought under a shell company's name. It's in Martha's Vineyard, a few hours from here. So I doubt anyone besides him knew about it. How do we get there without getting caught?" Olivia thought for a moment. "First, we need transportation that can't be easily traced. No taxis or ride-sharing apps." They watched the busy street through the shopping gallery's windows. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the asphalt. On a nearby corner, Olivia noticed a small travel agency offering tours to historic coastal towns. "There," she pointed, "we can join a group of tourists heading to Martha's Vineyard. No one will suspect two teenagers on a tour." Gabriel nodded, impressed by Olivia's quick thinking. "What about Max? Traveling with a dog his size isn't exactly discreet." Olivia smiled, stroking the animal's head. "Max has his own ways of staying unnoticed when needed. My father trained him for all kinds of situations." They cautiously approached the travel agency. Luckily, a van was leaving for Martha's Vineyard in 30 minutes, with seats available. Using the emergency cash Olivia always carried, they secured their tickets. "What about the dog?" asked the attendant, eyeing Max suspiciously. "He's my service dog," Olivia replied promptly. "I have partial visual impairment." It was a rehearsed lie her father had taught her for emergencies. The attendant looked embarrassed for questioning it. "Oh, sorry, of course he's welcome." While waiting for the van to depart, seated at a nearby cafe, Gabriel plugged the flash drive into his laptop, careful to disable any wireless connections. "I want to take a quick look at these files before we leave," he explained. "Especially this so-called Phoenix protocol they mentioned. It seems serious." The Prometheus files were extensive and organized into categories. Gabriel quickly navigated to a folder labeled Contingency Protocols. Inside, there were several subdirectories with coded names. One of them immediately caught their attention: Phoenix Alpha Level Authorization. When they opened the file, both Olivia and Gabriel paled as they read its contents. "It's an elimination protocol," Gabriel whispered, horrified. "Designated to eliminate any direct threat to the core of the syndicate." Olivia felt a knot in her stomach. "They're going to kill me," she murmured. "If they can't recover Prometheus, they'll kill me." Gabriel quickly shut the laptop and stashed it in his backpack. "Not if we stop them first. We need to expose all of this, Olivia. It's the only way to guarantee our safety." "But how?" "The syndicate controls practically everything. Politicians, judges, the press." "Not everything," Gabriel replied, a determined glint in his eyes. "At the house in Martha's Vineyard, we'll analyze all the files, identify who the Shadow is, and find a way. Your father left Prometheus to you for a reason. He believed you could finish what he started." The van to Martha's Vineyard arrived, parking in front of the agency. As they boarded alongside other tourists, Olivia couldn't help but glance back at the heart of New York, glowing in the evening light. Somewhere in that city, her mother and the syndicate were mobilizing forces to find her and to silence her permanently. "That Phoenix protocol," Gabriel whispered once they were settled in the van, "has a specific timeline. According to the files, once activated, they have 48 hours to execute it." "How long do we have before it's activated?" Gabriel hesitated before answering, his expression grim. "From what I gathered, the final decision lies with the Shadow, and based on the conversations we overheard between your mother and the senator, authorization could be given at any moment." Max, lying at Olivia's feet, suddenly lifted his head as if he had detected something. His alert eyes fixed on the window as the van began to move, leaving the heart of New York for the highway that would take them to Martha's Vineyard. The house in Martha's Vineyard was the perfect refuge. A restored colonial building, hidden between the forest and the sea, far enough from the historic center to ensure privacy. Even in the dim light of night, Olivia immediately recognized the place from the photos her father occasionally showed her, calling it his secret paradise. "I never imagined I'd come here under these circumstances," she remarked while searching for the spare key her father kept hidden inside a fake rock in the garden. The house was impeccable, as if someone kept it constantly ready for visitors. The dark wood furniture contrasted with the white walls, and large windows overlooked the sea. "Your father really thought of everything," Gabriel observed, admiring the discreet yet efficient security system protecting the property. "Independent, solar power, a private water system, shielded satellite internet connection. This place was designed to be completely self-sufficient and untraceable." Max explored the space, sniffing every corner as if searching for hidden threats. After a few minutes, the dog seemed to relax, lying down near the door like a silent guardian. "We're safe for now," Olivia said, letting out a sigh of relief. "Let's get to work. We need to figure out who the Shadow is before the Phoenix." "Protocol is activated." Gabriel set up his equipment on the dining room table. The flash drive containing the Prometheus files was connected to a laptop Anthony Carter kept in the house, a modified military model designed for maximum security. "Your father was truly a tech genius," Gabriel remarked, impressed by the computer's specifications. "This system has layers of protection I've never seen before." Olivia smiled sadly. "He always said the best protection was the kind no one noticed. He was ahead of his time." Over the next few hours, They dove into the Prometheus files. The amount of information was overwhelming. Classified documents, recordings of clandestine meetings, financial records of offshore accounts, encrypted emails. Anthony Carter had meticulously mapped out a corruption network that spanned all branches of the Republic. Look at this. Gabriel pointed to a complex flowchart on the screen. The syndicate has cells in at least 12 countries, all connected to a central hub here in the US. And at the center of it all, the shadow, completed Olivia, watching the icon blinking at the center of the diagram. But who is this person? Did my father find out? Gabriel kept browsing through the files until he found an encrypted folder simply titled Identity. A new password prompt appeared on the screen. Another password, he sighed in frustration. Any ideas? Olivia thought for a moment, recalling her father's words from the recording. The best protection is the one no one notices. Her eyes fixed on Max, who was intently watching the screen as if he too were trying to unravel the mystery. Max, Olivia murmured suddenly. Try Max. Gabriel typed the name, but the system rejected it. Not that. Wait, said Olivia, a memory surfacing from the depths of her mind. My father always used codes based on mythology. Prometheus stole fire from the gods. Max is the god of thunder, fire and thunder. Opposing elements that complement each other, Gabriel concluded, understanding where she was going. Let's try balance. When he typed the word, the screen flickered and the folder opened, revealing a single video file. They exchanged uneasy glances before clicking to play it. Anthony Carter's face appeared on the screen, looking more exhausted than in the previous recording. His eyes reflected a mix of determination and deep sorrow. Olivia, if you're seeing this, it means you've reached the end of the trail. Left for you. What I'm about to reveal now is the final piece of the puzzle, the identity of the person behind everything, the one known only as the Shadow. Anthony paused, as if gathering the courage to continue. For years, I followed leads, monitored transactions, infiltrated agents into key organizations. Everything pointed to the top, to someone with unimaginable power, someone whose name would never be associated with corruption or illegality. When I finally uncovered the truth, I could barely believe it. The camera pulled back slightly, revealing Anthony was holding a device similar to Prometheus. The person behind the syndicate, the mind orchestrating the entire network of corruption and manipulation, is your mother, Olivia. Helen Carter is the Shadow. Olivia felt as if the ground had vanished beneath her feet. Gabriel let out a gasp of surprise, but she barely heard it, focused only on her father's words. Helen wasn't always like this, Anthony continued, his voice thick with emotion. When we first met, she was brilliant, idealistic, determined to change the world for the better. We built the Carter Group together on solid principles. But power has an insidious way of corrupting even the purest souls. Images began appearing. Beside the video, photographs, documents, bank records, all confirming Helen's involvement in the syndicate's activities. Your mother started by using the Carter Group's influence to secure government contracts. At first, it was just to cut through the red tape, as she put it, but soon the manipulations grew more complex, more far-reaching. She created the syndicate as a network of mutual influence, politicians, business leaders, judges, all bound to one another, all protecting the system that enriched them. Silent tears streamed down Olivia's face as the truth unfolded. When I found out, I confronted Helen. I thought I could bring her back, remind her of our principles, of everything we stood for, but she had already gone too far. Power had become an addiction, and the syndicate, her masterpiece. Anthony paused again, taking a deep breath. That's when I began developing Prometheus, initially as a system to protect our corporate data, but secretly adapted to gather evidence against the syndicate. Helen eventually discovered it, and I'm certain she's planning an accident for me. That's why I'm leaving these instructions for you, my daughter. Anthony's expression grew even graver. Olivia, if you're seeing this, they probably already know you have access to Prometheus. The Union has protocols to deal with threats. And the most dangerous one is Phoenix. A complete elimination operation, no traces, no witnesses. Olivia's heart raced. Her father had foreseen everything. But you have something they don't expect. The full truth, and a way to expose it. Inside the Prometheus device, there's a special program labeled Final Contingency. This program is set to automatically disseminate all the evidence to hundreds of recipients at once. Independent journalists, international agencies, anti-corruption organizations. Once activated, there's no stopping it. Gabriel looked at Olivia, his eyes wide. Your father built a nuclear button for the system. The choice to activate it is yours, Olivia, Anthony continued. This is a heavy burden to place on your shoulders, but I trust your judgment, I trust your courage. The recording was coming to an end. Anthony smiled sadly, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Always remember what I taught you. True courage isn't the absence of fear, but the determination to move forward despite it. I love you, my daughter, more than anything in this world. The screen went dark, leaving Olivia and Gabriel in silence. Max approached, resting his head on Olivia's lap as if sensing her pain. After a moment, Gabriel spoke softly. What do you want to do? Olivia wiped her tears, a firm resolve forming in her heart. Activate the program, expose everything. It's the only way to stop the Union, and to honor my father's memory. As she prepared to connect the Prometheus device, a noise from outside the house froze them in place. Max was instantly on alert, ears perked up, a low growl escaping his throat. Someone's here, whispered Gabriel, quickly turning off the room lights. Olivia moved cautiously toward the window, peering through the curtains. Her blood ran cold as she saw several black cars approaching up the driveway. At the head of the convoy, she recognized her mother's personal vehicle. They found us, she whispered, panic threatening to take over. How is this possible? Gabriel grabbed the Prometheus device, handing it to Olivia. We don't have much time. If we're going to activate the program, it has to be now. With trembling hands, Olivia connected the device to the computer and accessed the Final Contingency program. A single question appeared on the screen. Confirm activation? At that moment, headlights flooded the room through the curtains. Voices and footsteps grew closer to the house. Among them, Olivia recognized the controlled, icy tone of Helen Carter, her mother. The shadow, issuing precise orders. Olivia, darling, I know you're in there. Helen's voice rang out, now closer on the house's porch. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Open the door and we'll talk. Max positioned himself between Olivia and the door, ready to protect her at any cost. Gabriel stared anxiously at the computer screen, where the confirmation prompt still blinked, waiting for an answer. Olivia, Helen continued, her voice taking on an almost maternal tone. You don't understand what's at stake here. The syndicate isn't what your father thought. We're reforming the country from the inside out, creating order where there's chaos. Your father was too much of an idealist to realize that sometimes sacrifices are necessary for the greater good. The doorknob turned slowly. Someone was trying to enter. Max growled louder, bracing for confrontation. 5 seconds to open up. Olivia, Richard's voice came from the other side of the door. Or we're coming in by force. Gabriel looked at Olivia, the silent question in his eyes. Now. Olivia took a deep breath, recalling her father's words. True courage isn't the absence of fear, but the determination to move forward despite it. With a decisive motion, she clicked confirm. The screen displayed a message. Final contingency activated. Distribution initiated. Estimated time to completion 60 seconds. At that exact moment, the door burst open. Helen Carter entered first, followed by Richard and 2 other armed men. Max lunged forward but stopped at a subtle command from Olivia. There was no more need for a fight. It's over, Mother, said Olivia, standing to face Helen. Prometheus has been activated. All the evidence about the syndicate is being sent right now to hundreds of people around the world. There's no stopping it. Helen's always controlled face paled. What have you done? She whispered, her gaze darting between Olivia and the computer screen where a progress bar advanced rapidly. You have no idea what you've just done. On the contrary, Olivia replied with a calm she didn't know she possessed. I'm finishing what my father started. I'm choosing the truth. Helen took a step forward, but Max growled threateningly, forcing her back. On the computer, the progress bar reached 100%, and a new message appeared. Distribution successfully completed. As if to confirm it, everyone's phones in the room began ringing simultaneously with news alerts. Helen's face twisted in defeat as she looked at her own phone screen. This won't end well for you, Olivia, she said, her voice now stripped of its earlier confidence. The syndicate has deep roots. Some people won't fall with us. Maybe not, Olivia agreed, but it's a start. And secrets always find a way to the light, don't they, Mom? You were the one who taught me that. The sun was just beginning to rise on the horizon, its first rays streaming through the windows of the house. Outside, the sound of more cars approaching, probably the police drawn by the explosive revelations now dominating every news outlet. Helen looked at her daughter one last time, a complex mix of emotions in her eyes, pride, anger, fear, and perhaps a flicker of regret. Then, with a nod to Richard and the other men, she turned to leave. You're more like your father than I ever imagined, were her last words before surrendering to the inevitable. 3 months later. The summer sun bathed the garden of the small house in Martha's Vineyard. Olivia sat on the porch, absent-mindedly stroking Max's head as he rested beside her. Gabriel appeared, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Just saw it on the news, he said, sitting next to her. 3 more ministers were indicted today. The case against the syndicate keeps growing. Olivia nodded, a calm smile on her face. My father would have been proud. The last few months had been an emotional roller coaster. The exposure of the syndicate had shaken the power structures across the country. Helen Carter and several other members of the organization were now facing charges for multiple crimes. The Carter Group had undergone a complete restructuring, now under the supervision of an independent board. As for Olivia, she had chosen a different path. Using part of the inheritance left by her father, she had created a foundation dedicated to transparency and fighting corruption. The Prometheus Project, as she had publicly named it, had become a symbol of hope for many. Do you think it's over? Gabriel asked, gazing at the sea stretching to the horizon. Olivia shook her head. Not entirely. Like my mother said, the syndicate had deep roots. Some people escaped. Others are already trying to rebuild their networks of influence. She paused, watching a seagull soaring over the beach. But they know now they're not safe, that there are people watching, willing to expose the truth at any cost. Gabriel smiled, taking her hand. And you'll be there leading the fight. We'll be there, corrected Olivia, returning the smile. Max lifted his head, as if understanding that he, too, was part of that promise. In Olivia's pocket, the small keychain with the flame symbol, the emblem of Prometheus, felt lighter now. The fire stolen from the gods, the forbidden knowledge had finally served its purpose, to illuminate the shadows, to reveal the truth, no matter how painful it was. And as the sun set over the sea of Martha's Vineyard, Olivia Carter knew that, despite all the losses and painful discoveries, she had chosen the right path, the path of light, the path of truth, the only path her father would have approved of. If you enjoyed this